Hello, everybody. It's Mr. Fetch. I'm going to be doing the read aloud for pages 76 through 84. And at the end of chapter 3, Joanna just introduced us to who she is, so I'm going to pick it up from there. Chapter 4. Several hours later, after an uncomfortable night's sleep, the train arrived in Des Moines, Iowa. The children fidgeted nervously in their seats, anxious to get off the train and anxious to see who would show up to adopt them. They were taken off the train and to the station. There, Mr. and Mrs. Swan fussed over them, combing hair and straightening collars. When it seemed like they were satisfied, they began to march down the street. A short while later, they arrived at the church, were immediately walked through a crowd to the front. The children lined up according to age on the platform. Mr. Swan told them to smile before he addressed the crowd. Now remember, Joanna is probably the oldest. She's at least 14, probably close to 15. So she'll be at probably one of the ends. Joanna stood on the makeshift stage and forced herself to look at the growing crowd of people. She couldn't believe all of these couples wanted a child, and a dirty, poor child at that. She restlessly searched the crowd for a friendly face, for a woman with an easy smile that could call her mama, that she could call mama. Her eyes darted back and forth over the people, and then she saw her. The woman was wearing a beautiful dark green colored shawl. Her long silky hair was curled into ringlets, and her eyes almost sparkled as she looked at the children. She was holding the hand of a tall, handsome man with a clean-shaven face. Joanna's heart leapt, and she unrealistically hoped that they would be her new parents. Mr. Swan stepped up in front of everyone and welcomed the people to what he had hoped would be a happy event. He explained the procedure to follow if they found a child and they wanted to adopt. Then Mr. Swan stepped off to the side, giving a full view of the children once again. Throughout his speech, Joanna kept her eyes locked on the beautiful couple. She watched them begin to walk toward the stage, turning down the center aisle and then moving to the front of the church. She watched them look up and down the row of children and then quickly snatch a tiny bundle from Mrs. Swan's arms. It was the baby she had been holding on the train. Joanna gasped, and her eyes filled with tears. Immediately, she scolded herself. Why would anyone want her when they can have a beautiful newborn baby instead? She took a deep breath, wiped the tears from her eyes, and when she opened them again, she was shocked to see a tall, bearded man standing in front of her. How old are you? 15. My name is... But he cut her off. Have you ever had a job before? Yes, sir. I once worked at a hotel cleaning and helping in the kitchen some. Joanna answered, not attempting to hide the confusion from her voice. Good. Do you have siblings? Well, not anymore. They died when they were babies, she answered, a frown beginning to form on her face. Did you care for them? He asked, critically eyeing her. Yes, sir, best I knew how, but nothing can't stop them from getting sick, and we didn't have any money for medicine, she answered seriously. Where are your parents? He continued, bluntly. I don't know, sir, probably dead, she shot back at him, shocked she could seem so uncaring. Why are you here? Because I don't have anywhere else to go. Joanna was about to ask the man why he was here when he suddenly seemed to make up his mind. Fine, you'll do. Come with me to see that man. My name is Joanna, she said clearly and confidently, attempting to at least be heard in this one personal aspect. This gave the man cause to stop, turn, and really look at her for the first time. He gave a faint shake of his head, and Joanna thought she almost saw a smile creep onto his face, but then it was gone. He walked away from her toward Mr. Swan. She wasn't sure if she wanted to go with him, but she was even less sure that someone else would choose her. Reluctantly, she followed him, hoping it was the right choice. Joanna stood to the side while the man and Mr. Swan filled out the paperwork. The man answered Mr. Swan's questions with short answers, not cruelly, but not friendly either. Joanna almost wished Mr. Swan would forbid him to take her, but in the end, he let her go. Best of luck, Joanna. We'll be back in a year to check on you, were his parting words, and then he turned to help the next family. On the way home, she learned that the man's name was Henry and that he had 3 children. He didn't mention a wife. He lived and worked on the farm growing corn, like most Iowans, raising a handful of animals as well. He and Jeremy, his oldest child, would take care of that. The inside chores would be hers to manage.